My wife was admitted to the hospital last Monday. Routine tests, they said. Nothing serious. The doctor told me at 4:30 in the afternoon, smiling like it was all under control. I went home alone that night. At 12:17 a.m., my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. One text from a nurse. It said, "Sir, the hospital didn't lose her records. Please check this." I stared at the phone for a long moment after that text came in, the glow of the screen lighting up the dark kitchen. The house was quiet in that way. It only gets after midnight, when every sound feels louder than it should. I read the message again, slower this time. The hospital didn't lose her records. Please check this. No name, no explanation. Just that. My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. Nurses don't text patients' families like that. At least, they're not supposed to. I typed back, "Who is this?" and waited. The three little dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. I set the phone down, told myself to breathe, and poured a glass of water I didn't really want. My wife Ellen had been in and out of hospitals for years with her autoimmune issues. Paperwork got misplaced all the time. It was frustrating, but it wasn't new. Still, that text didn't sit right. It felt intentional, like a warning. Earlier that evening, everything had felt almost normal. I'd visited Ellen around 6. She was tired but smiling, joking about the terrible mashed potatoes. "They'll run a few tests tomorrow and send me home," she said, squeezing my hand. The attending physician backed that up. "Some missing historical records," he explained, tapping his tablet. "We're trying to retrieve them, but it's nothing to worry about." I trusted him. I wanted to trust him. After 32 years of marriage, I'd learned that worrying didn't change outcomes. But now, it was after midnight, and a nurse I didn't know had reached out like this. I picked the phone back up and scrolled up, half expecting the message to vanish. It didn't. I typed again. "My wife is Ellen Harper. What should I check?" This time, the reply came almost immediately. "I shouldn't be doing this. Please log into the patient portal." Look at last year. My heart started pounding. The patient portal. I hadn't logged in for months. Ellen usually handled all of that. She liked being in control of her medical stuff. I sat down at the kitchen table, the chair scraping softly against the floor, and opened my laptop. My hands felt clumsy as I typed in the password. I got it wrong twice. On the third try, it let me in. The home page loaded slowly, and for a second I felt foolish. This was probably nothing, a glitch, a misunderstanding. But then I clicked on medical history and scrolled. This year, last year, the year before that. Everything looked thin, too thin. Visits missing. Diagnoses summarized in vague language. I frowned and clicked on a drop-down labeled Archived Records. I didn't remember seeing that before. There were files there. Dozens of them. Time-stamped. Categorized. But marked as inactive. My stomach tightened. I clicked the first one. A consent form. Not my signature. Ellen's. Dated 14 months ago. The next was a consultation note, then another. Then imaging reports. Serious ones. I leaned closer to the screen, my pulse loud in my ears. Words jumped out at me. Progression. Delayed intervention. Patient requested confidentiality. Confidentiality. From who? From me. I sat back, suddenly feeling like the air had been sucked out of the room. Ellen and I told each other everything. Or at least, that's what I believed. I picked up my phone and typed, "I'm seeing things here. Why was this hidden?" The reply came after a longer pause this time. "Because someone ordered it to be, and it wasn't the doctor." That's when fear really set in, not the abstract kind you feel when doctors talk statistics, but a sharp, personal fear. Someone had made a decision about my wife's medical records, someone with authority, and a nurse was risking her job to tell me. I asked her name. She didn't answer that. Instead, she sent one more message. You need to come here in the morning. Ask for Dr. Myers. And don't mention this text. I didn't sleep after that. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation Ellen and I had had over the past year. The times she brushed off fatigue, the appointments she said were routine follow-ups. The afternoons she told me not to come with her because it's faster alone. None of it had raised alarms then. Now, every memory felt like a clue I'd missed. At 7:30, I was already in the hospital parking lot. Too early for visiting hours, but I didn't care. I walked straight to the nurse's station on Ellen's floor and asked for Dr. Myers, trying to keep my voice steady. The nurse behind the desk glanced at the clock, then at me. He's in already, she said slowly. May I ask what this is regarding? I thought about the text, about the warning. Concerns about my wife's chart, I said. That seems safe enough. Dr. Myers was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with tired eyes and a careful way of speaking. He closed the door to the consultation room behind us and folded his hands on the table. You've accessed some archived material, he said. Not quite a question, I nodded. Why was it archived? I asked. He hesitated just long enough for me to notice. Because it was flagged, he said. By hospital administration. Why? My voice cracked, despite my effort to keep it calm. He exhaled slowly. Your wife requested that certain information be restricted, he said, citing family stress. That didn't make sense. Ellen worried about everyone else's stress more than her own. And you agreed to that? I asked. Without telling me, he looked down at the table. We followed protocol. I leaned forward. Doctor, there are notes in there about delayed intervention, about progression. What was delayed? He met my eyes then, and whatever he saw on my face made his expression change. I think, he said carefully, that you should speak with your wife about that. I stood up. I will, I said. Right now, Ellen was awake when I walked into her room, propped up on pillows, watching the morning news with the sound off. She smiled when she saw me, but it faded when she saw my face. What's wrong? She asked. I pulled a chair close to her bed and took her hand. Why didn't you tell me? I said quietly. She looked away. Tell you what, I swallowed. About last year. About what they found. About what you asked them to hide. Her grip tightened. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she said, barely above a whisper, because I was scared. I nodded. I understood fear. Scared of what? I asked. She closed her eyes. Of what they wanted me to do, she said. That stopped me cold. Who wanted you to do what? I asked. She opened her eyes again, and there was something in them I hadn't seen before. Not fear, not fear. Not exactly. Something closer to resolve. The hospital, she said. And someone else. Before I could ask another question, the door opened, and a woman in a dark suit stepped inside, her badge clipped neatly to her jacket. She smiled like this was a routine check-in. Mr. Harper, she said, I'm from hospital administration. We need to talk about your access to certain records. And that was when I realized this wasn't just about missing paperwork. It was about control. And whatever they were trying to protect, it wasn't my wife. The woman from administration closed the door behind her with a soft click that felt louder than it should have. She introduced herself as Miss Caldwell and spoke in that calm, rehearsed tone people use when they think they're in charge. This won't take long, she said, glancing at her tablet. We just need to clarify a few things. I didn't sit down. I stayed standing between her and Ellen's bed without even thinking about it. Ellen noticed. She squeezed my hand once, a quiet signal to stay calm. Clarify what? I asked. Miss Caldwell smiled politely. Your access to archived medical records, she said. Some of that information is restricted for patient privacy reasons. I felt my jaw tighten. She's my wife, I said. We've been married 32 years. There's nothing in her medical history that should be hidden from me. Ellen shifted in the bed. I asked for it, she said softly. Miss Caldwell nodded, as if that settled everything. But you didn't tell me why, I said. Looking at Ellen now, you didn't tell me what they found. Miss Caldwell raised a hand. This isn't the appropriate setting for I cut her off. Then what is? I said. Because a nurse felt the need to warn me at midnight, and doctors are dodging questions. Something is wrong here. Her smile tightened. I'm afraid I can't comment on staff behavior, she said. Vale took a breath. They told me if you knew you'd interfere. She said. The words hit me harder than I expected. Interfere with what? I asked. She looked at Miss Caldwell, then back at me. With the plan, she said. That was the first time Miss Caldwell's expression changed. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Ellen, she said gently. We agreed. Ellen shook her head. I'm tired of agreeing, she said. I pulled the chair closer and sat down beside the bed. Start from the beginning, I said. Ellen swallowed. Last year when I went in for what we thought was a routine scan, they found something, she said. Something that explained why I was getting worse. My chest tightened. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Again, quieter this time. Because the next thing they said scared me, she replied. They said treatment would be complicated. Miss Caldwell cleared her throat. Mrs. Harper, we should discuss this privately. Ellen shook her head again. No, she said. He's hearing this, Miss Caldwell looked at me. Your wife was presented with several options, she said carefully. Some of them experimental. I leaned forward, and I said. And participation required discretion, she said. Limited disclosure. I laughed once, short and bitter. You mean silence? I said. Ellen nodded. They said if family got involved it could slow approvals, she said. Funding, scheduling. I didn't want delays. I took her hand. So you hid it from me? I asked. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought I was protecting you, she said. I didn't want you fighting with doctors. Second-guessing everything. I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak twist in my chest. Ellen, that's what husbands do, I said. We fight. Miss Caldwell checked her tablet again. Given this development, she said, we may need to revisit certain agreements. That word again, agreements. What agreements? I asked. She hesitated. Non-disclosure clauses, she said. Consent forms. I stood up. You mean legal documents, I said. You mean paperwork that benefits the hospital? She didn't answer that. She just said, we'll arrange a meeting. After she left, the room felt smaller. Ellen looked exhausted, like she'd just run a race she hadn't trained for. I'm sorry, she said. I shook my head. I'm sorry, she said. I shook my head. We'll deal with sorry later, I said. Right now, I need to know what they're not telling us. She reached for the call button. There's someone you should talk to, she said. The nurse. My heart skipped. The one who texted me, I asked. Ellen nodded. She tried to talk to me too, she said. They reassigned her. It took most of the afternoon, but eventually a nurse I hadn't seen before came in to check Ellen's vitals. She glanced at the door, then leaned in slightly. You're Mr. Harper, she said quietly. I nodded. I work nights, she said. She asked me to watch out for your wife. I felt a chill. Why? I asked. She hesitated. Because things weren't lining up, she said. Records disappearing. Orders changing. She straightened up when footsteps passed in the hall. What kind of orders? I asked. She lowered her voice further. Delays, she said. Tests pushed back. Consults canceled. Ellen frowned. They told me it was scheduling, she said. The nurse shook her head. It wasn't, she said. It was authorization. That word again. Control. Who authorizes? I asked. The nurse swallowed. Administration, she said. And an outside partner. That night I went home with more questions than answers. Ellen insisted I get some rest. Tomorrow, she said. We push back. I nodded, but sleep didn't come easily. I kept thinking about archived records and legal language, about how smoothly Miss Caldwell had spoken. Hospitals were supposed to heal people, not manage them like assets. I opened my laptop again and went back into the portal. This time I downloaded everything. Around 11:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. Same unknown number. They're watching access logs. The message read, "Be careful." I typed back, "Who are you?" The reply took longer this time. Someone who didn't sign up to hurt patients. Then another message came through. "If you want the full picture, ask about the trial." The trial. I sat there staring at that word, feeling the weight of it settle in. Ellen wasn't just a patient. She was part of something bigger, something controlled. And if they were worried about me asking questions, then those questions mattered more than ever. I shut the laptop and grabbed my keys. Tomorrow, I wasn't just a worried husband. I was going to be a problem. I got to the hospital before sunrise, the sky still gray and undecided, like it hadn't made up its mind about the day yet. I didn't go straight to Ellen's room. Instead, I stopped at the admissions desk and asked a simple question in a calm voice. "I'd like a full list of clinical trials currently running through this facility." The woman behind the desk blinked, then typed, "Are you a physician?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm a husband." She hesitated, then handed me a generic pamphlet. It listed programs in vague terms, nothing specific, nothing useful. I thanked her and walked away, already knowing this wasn't going to be handed to me. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, trying to burn off the nervous energy building in my chest. On the third floor, I ran into Dr. Myers, coming out of an office. His coat already on, he looked surprised to see me. "You're early," he said. "So are you," I replied. We stood there for a moment, neither of us moving. Finally he sighed. "You're not going to let this go," he said. "No," I answered. "I'm not." He glanced down the hall, then gestured toward his office. 5 minutes, he said. "That's all I can spare." Inside, he closed the door and leaned against his desk. "There is a trial," he said without preamble. "It's funded externally. It's supposed to be cutting edge." "Supposed to be," I repeated. He nodded. "Your wife met the criteria almost perfectly," he said. "Age, progression, overall health." Administration was eager, that word again. "And the risks?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. "Unknowns," he said finally. "That's the nature of trials." I felt my hands curl into fists. "Did you tell her that?" I asked. He looked at me. "We told her what we were permitted to," he said. I left his office before my anger got the better of me. When I reached Ellen's room, she was awake, staring out the window. "You talked to him," she said. It wasn't a question. I sat down and told her everything he'd said. She listened quietly, her face unreadable. "They made it sound like the best option," she said, when I finished. "They said if it worked, it could help people like me for years to come." I swallowed. "And if it didn't?" I asked. She looked down at her hands. "They didn't focus on that." Mid-morning, Miss Caldwell returned, this time with another man in a suit I didn't recognize. He introduced himself as Mr. Lawson, legal counsel. "We understand there have been concerns," he said smoothly. "We'd like to address them." I didn't sit down. "Start with why you pressured my wife into signing documents that kept me in the dark," I said. He smiled thinly. "No one was pressured," he said. "Mrs. Harper consented." Ellen spoke up. "You told me if I didn't sign, I'd be moved to standard care," she said. "With delays?" Mr. Lawson nodded. "That's accurate," he said. "Trial participants receive prioritized resources." I felt something snap inside me. "So you leveraged care," I said. "You used fear," Miss Caldwell interjected. "We offered an opportunity," she said. "An opportunity you buried in legal language." I shot back. The meeting ended with nothing resolved, Just promises of review and follow-up. After they left, Ellen looked exhausted again. I don't know if I did the right thing, she said. I took her hand. We'll decide together from now on, I said. No more secrets. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I was so scared of losing control. She said, I didn't realize I was giving it away. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Same number. They're accelerating timelines, the text read. They don't want scrutiny. I typed back. Who are you really? The reply came a minute later. Someone who saw this go wrong before. My heart sank. Patience? I wrote. The response was short. Yes, I spent the evening making calls. Old friends. A cousin who'd gone to law school years ago. Anyone who might point me in the right direction. By the time I got home, I had a name for what I needed, an independent patient advocate. Someone who didn't answer to the hospital. I found one online, left a message, and hoped it wasn't too late. The next morning, things moved fast. Too fast. A nurse came in with paperwork, talking about scheduling procedures. Sooner rather than later. Ellen looked at me, eyes wide. This is what they warned me about, she whispered. I stepped between her and the nurse. We're not signing anything today, I said. The nurse looked uncomfortable. I'll notify administration, she said, and left. An hour later, security showed up. Not aggressive, but present. We've had reports of disruption, one of them said. I laughed. A harsh sound. Disruption, I said. I'm asking questions. He shrugged. I'm just here to keep things calm, he said. Ellen reached for my hand. Please, she whispered. Don't let them rush me. That was when my phone rang. A local number. I stepped into the hall to answer. Mr. Harper? A woman's voice said, This is Linda Perez. I got your message. My chest tightened with relief. You're a patient advocate? I asked. I am, she said. And I think we need to talk in person. Today? I glanced back at Ellen's door. Then down the hall where Miss Caldwell's office was. I'll be there, I said. As I hung up, I realized something important. The hospital had expected compliance. Silence. Gratitude. What they hadn't planned for was a husband who wouldn't stop asking why. And whatever this trial really was, they were suddenly very interested in moving forward, without my consent. That told me everything I needed to know. I met Linda Perez in the small cafe across the street from the hospital, the kind of place people go when they need to talk without feeling watched. She was already there when I arrived, sitting with a notebook closed in front of her, hands folded, eyes alert. She looked to be in her late 50s, calm in a way that only comes from having seen too much to be easily rattled. You must be David, she said, standing to shake my hand. You look like a man who hasn't slept. I managed a thin smile. That obvious? I asked. We didn't waste time. I told her everything. The archived records, the trial, the midnight texts, the pressure. She listened without interrupting, only nodding occasionally, her expression tightening at certain points. When I finished, she opened her notebook. They're pushing because they're close to a deadline, she said. Trials like this are tied to funding milestones. If they don't enroll enough participants fast enough, the money dries up. I felt my stomach drop. So Ellen is a number, I said. Linda met my eyes. To them, she said gently. Yes, I asked her the question that had been eating at me since the first text. Has this gone wrong before? She didn't hesitate. Yes, she said. And when it does, records get complicated. Language gets vague. Families get shut out. I thought of the archived files. The careful wording. What can we do? I asked. She closed the notebook. First, we slow them down, she said. Second, we get you full disclosure. Legally, that word, legally, felt like a lifeline. When I got back to the hospital, the atmosphere had changed. People were polite, But there was an edge now, a watchfulness. Miss Caldwell was waiting outside Ellen's room. "We were informed you left the premises," she said. "Yes," I replied. "I had a meeting." Her eyes flicked to Linda, who stood beside me. "And you are?" Miss Caldwell asked. "Linda Perez," Linda said calmly. "Patient advocate." Independent. For the first time, Miss Caldwell didn't smile. Inside the room, Ellen looked relieved to see us. Linda introduced herself and explained her role in simple terms. "I'm here to make sure you understand your options," she said, "and that no one rushes you." Ellen nodded, gripping the blanket. "They're trying to schedule something," she said. Linda turned to Miss Caldwell. "All procedures are on hold, pending review," she said. "Effective immediately." Miss Caldwell bristled. "That's not how this works," she said. Linda met her gaze. "It is when consent is withdrawn," she replied. The next few hours were tense. Calls were made, papers were shuffled. Mr. Lawson reappeared, his tone sharper than before. "You're putting your wife at risk," he said to me quietly in the hallway. By delaying care, I felt anger flare. "You're the ones who delayed," I said. "By hiding information." He leaned closer. "Be careful," he said. "Hospitals have resources." I didn't back away. "So do families," I said. That evening Ellen was quieter than usual. When we were alone, she looked at me and said, "What if they're right?" My heart clenched. "About what?" I asked. "About me losing my chance," she said. I sat on the edge of the bed. "Ellen, a chance you don't understand isn't a chance," I said. "It's a gamble." She nodded slowly. "I just wanted to live," she whispered. I took her hand. "So do I said. "And that's why we're doing this the right way." Late that night, my phone buzzed again. Same number. "They know about the advocate." The text read, "Expect pushback." I typed back, "Who are you?" This time the reply came with a name, Rachel. Then another message followed. I was on the first iteration of this trial. It didn't end well. My breath caught. "For you?" I asked. There was a long pause. "For my brother," she replied. The next morning, Linda arrived early with a thick folder. "I pulled public filings," she said. "This trial has been rebranded twice." She showed us documents with different names, different dates, but the same core language. "Why rebrand?" I asked. "To distance from outcomes," she said. Ellen looked pale. "Outcomes like what?" Linda hesitated. "Complications," she said. "And deaths." The word hung in the air. Before we could process that, Dr. Myers came in, his face drawn. "Administration is escalating," he said quietly. "They're considering transferring Ellen to another facility." My heart sank. "Can they do that?" I asked. He nodded. "If they claim non-compliance," he said. Ellen looked frightened. "They're trying to move me," she said. Linda stepped forward. "Not without due process," she said firmly. And not today. As the day wore on, it became clear the hospital wasn't backing down. But neither were we. For the first time since this began, I felt something other than fear. I felt resolve. They had underestimated how far I'd go to protect my wife, and whatever this trial was hiding, it was now exposed to daylight. That made it dangerous for them. By the third day, the hospital stopped pretending this was routine. The smiles were gone. Conversations happened behind glass walls. People spoke in lowered voices when they thought we couldn't hear. Ellen noticed it too. "They're treating me like a problem," she said quietly. That morning, I squeezed her hand. "That's because you are," I replied. "Just not the way they want." Linda stayed close, taking notes, asking pointed questions no one wanted to answer. When she requested a full risk disclosure document for the trial, administration stalled. When she asked for historical adverse event data, they said it was proprietary. Proprietary doesn't override patient safety. Linda reminded them. Mr. Lawson didn't argue. He just wrote something down and said they'd circle back. We all knew what that meant. Late that afternoon, Dr. Myers came in, looking uneasy. He closed the door behind him and spoke in a low voice. "They've removed me from Ellen's case," he said. Ellen's eyes widened. "Why?" she asked. He hesitated. "Because I documented your hesitation," he said. "And because I answered questions." I felt anger surge again. "So they punish transparency now?" I said. He didn't respond. He just looked tired. After he left, Ellen stared at the wall for a long time. "I trusted them," she said finally. "I trusted that they were trying to help me." I sat beside her. "Most people in that building probably are," I said. "But not the people making these decisions." She nodded slowly. "Rachel?" she said suddenly. "The nurse?" She said her brother died. I nodded. "Yes." Ellen swallowed. What if that was supposed to be me? The question cut straight through me. That night, Linda arranged a conference call with an outside physician she trusted, an oncologist from another state who specialized in trials. We put the phone on speaker. Linda summarized Ellen's condition and the proposed protocol. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "This design raises concerns," the doctor said carefully, "especially given her profile." Ellen leaned forward. "Concerns how?" she asked. "Risk without clear benefit," the doctor replied, "and limited long-term data." After the call ended, Ellen looked at me with something like clarity. "I don't want this," she said. "Not like this." Relief flooded me, followed immediately by fear. "Then we say no," I said. Linda nodded. "Formally," she said. "In writing." We drafted the withdrawal that night. Clear language, no ambiguity. Consent revoked. Participation declined. Copies sent to administration, legal, and patient records. The response was swift. Too swift. By morning, Ellen's insurance coverage was suddenly under review. A billing specialist came by to explain potential changes. Linda shut that down immediately. "Retaliation is illegal," she said flatly. The specialist left without another word. Ellen looked shaken. "They're punishing us," she whispered. "They're trying," I said. "That tells us we're right." Around noon, my phone buzzed again. "Rachel." "They're scrambling," she wrote. "Someone filed an internal incident report." My heart skipped. "You?" I asked. The reply came a minute later. "Yes, and two others." Two others, that mattered. "What happens now?" I wrote. "They'll try to bury it," she replied. "Unless it goes external." Linda was already thinking the same thing. "Regulators," she said when I told her. "State health department. Possibly federal oversight." Ellen looked nervous. "Won't that make things worse?" she asked. Linda shook her head. "It makes them careful," she said. "And careful is what we want." I looked at Ellen. "We don't have to decide that today," I said. She nodded. "One step at a time," she said. That afternoon, Miss Caldwell returned. Her composure strained. "We received your withdrawal," she said. "We'd like to discuss alternatives." Linda stood. "There are none," she said. "This decision is final." Miss Caldwell's eyes flicked to Ellen. "You're making a mistake," she said softly. Ellen met her gaze. "No," she said. "I made one before. This fixes it." Miss Caldwell said nothing else, and left. For the first time since Ellen had been admitted, there was a sense of quiet. Not peace, exactly, but space. Space to breathe. Space to think. Ellen rested more that evening, and when she slept, it was deeper than it had been in days. I sat beside her, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest, thinking about how close we'd come to losing control completely. Just before midnight, my phone buzzed one last time. "Thank you," Rachel wrote, "for stopping it." I stared at the message. "You helped us," I replied. The response came after a pause. "You helped future patients," she said, "including me." I didn't know what to say to that. so I just typed, "Stay safe." The next morning, Linda brought news. "Administration has suspended enrollment in the trial," she said. Ellen looked at me, eyes wide. "Because of us?" she asked. Linda nodded. "Because of pressure," she said, "and documentation." Relief washed over me, heavy and unexpected. But it was tempered by something else. "Suspicion, suspended isn't cancelled," I said. Linda met my gaze. "No," she said. "It isn't." As Ellen prepared for discharge planning under standard care, I realized something important. We had won a battle, but not the war. The system that allowed this was still intact, still quiet, still powerful. And if they could do this to Ellen, they could do it to anyone. I looked at my wife, sitting up in bed, stronger than she'd been in weeks. I knew then that walking away wasn't going to be enough. Not anymore. Ellen came home. 3 days later, thinner and tired, but clear-eyed in a way I hadn't seen in months. The hospital framed it as a smooth transition, but we both knew better. They wanted her out, away from advocates, away from questions, away from anyone who might keep digging. As I helped her into bed that first night, she looked at me and said, "They didn't expect you." I kissed her forehead. "Neither did I," said. The first week at home was quiet on the surface. Follow-up appointments were scheduled with new doctors, outside the hospital's network. Linda checked in daily. But underneath that calm, things were shifting. Mail started arriving. Official-looking envelopes, policy updates. Explanation of benefits notices that didn't quite add up. One afternoon, Ellen called me into the kitchen, holding a letter with shaking hands. "They denied this," she said. It was coverage for a medication she'd been on for years. I made calls, long ones, insurance representatives, who spoke in circles. This change originated from the provider. One of them finally admitted, "Provider, the hospital." I hung up and felt that familiar anger rise again. They were still trying to apply pressure, just quieter now. "They don't want us comfortable," Ellen said. "They want us tired." She wasn't wrong. That night my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a man's voice said my name. "This is Mark," he said. "I got your number from Rachel." My heart skipped. "She said you might want to hear my story." I told him to go on. He paused. "My wife was in that trial." He said, 2 years ago." I closed my eyes. "What happened?" I asked. He exhaled slowly. "They said complications were unrelated." He said, "They always say that." We talked for almost an hour. Different hospital, same language, same pressure, same outcome. When I hung up, Ellen was watching me from the doorway. "More like us?" she asked. I nodded. She sank into a chair. "How many?" she whispered. I didn't have an answer, but I knew the number wasn't small. The next morning, Linda came by with coffee and a stack of notes. "I'm hearing from others too," she said. "Word is spreading." By the end of the week, there were 6 names, then 9. Patients or family members, all tied to variations of the same trial, the same sponsor. Linda laid the files out on our dining table. "This isn't random," she said. "It's a pattern." Ellen ran her finger along the edge of one document. "They counted on people being too sick to fight," she said quietly. "Or too scared." I looked at her. "Not this time," I said. Linda suggested we speak with a journalist. She trusted someone who handled medical investigations carefully. "This only works if it's done right," she warned. "Facts, documents, voices." Ellen hesitated. "What if they retaliate again?" she asked. Linda didn't sugarcoat it. "They might try," she said. "But sunlight changes behavior." Ellen looked at me. I didn't hesitate. "We do it," I said. The interview happened over 2 long afternoons. No cameras. Just a recorder on the table. The journalist, a woman named Karen, asked thoughtful questions and didn't interrupt. Ellen told her everything. The fear, The pressure. The silence. When she finished, Karen turned to me. "Why didn't you stop it sooner?" she asked gently. The question stung. "Because I didn't know," I said. "And because I trusted them." Karen nodded. "That's the story," she said. 2 days later, Karen called back. "We're going to need confirmation from inside," she said. My stomach tightened. "We have it," I said. "But they're scared." Karen paused. "They usually are," she said. "But sometimes fear isn't enough." That night I got a text from Rachel. I heard it said, "I'm in." I stared at the screen, a mix of relief and worry flooding me. "Are you sure?" I typed. The reply came quickly. "I already lost my brother," she wrote. "I won't lose anyone else." The article took weeks to prepare. During that time, the hospital went silent. No letters, no calls. Just quiet. It was unsettling. "They're waiting," Ellen said one evening. "For what?" I asked. She shrugged. "For us to slip up." But we didn't. Linda reviewed everything before it went out. Every claim backed by documents, every quote verified. When the piece finally published, it didn't explode right away. It didn't need to. Within hours, regulators reached out. By the next day, the hospital issued a statement. Vague, defensive. By the end of the week, the sponsor announced a voluntary pause on all related trials nationwide. Ellen read the headline twice. "We did that," she said. I nodded. "You did," I replied. The cost came quickly. A letter from the hospital's legal department. "We regret the adversarial direction this has taken." It began. I laughed when I read that. "They regret getting caught," I said. Linda agreed. "This isn't over," she said. "But it's shifted." Ellen looked at me, her eyes steady. "I don't regret it," she said. "Even if it gets harder." I took her hand. "Neither do I," I said. That night as we sat on the couch, Ellen leaned her head on my shoulder. "Promise me something," she said. "What?" I asked. "That we don't look away again," she said. I thought about the archived records, the midnight text, the fear. "I promise," I said. And I meant it, because once you see how quietly harm can be dressed up as care, you don't forget it, and you don't unsee it. The attention brought relief, but it also brought something else I hadn't fully prepared for. Strangers started calling the house. Some left voicemails, some hung up when I answered. Others stayed on the line just long enough to say a name and a date, like they were afraid of being overheard. Ellen listened to a few of them with me, then asked me to stop playing them out loud. "I believe them," she said. "I just can't carry all of it at once." Linda warned us this would happen. When people see someone speak up and survive it, they come out of the shadows, she said. But it takes a toll. She wasn't wrong. Ellen's energy came and went. Some days she felt strong, even hopeful. Other days she barely got out of bed. Standard care was helping, slowly, but the emotional weight was heavy. "I didn't sign up to be a symbol," she said one afternoon. "I just wanted to get better." I sat beside her. "You still are," I said. "Both things can be true." 2 weeks after the article ran, I got a certified letter in the mail. Hospital letterhead, legal language. "They're requesting a meeting," I said, holding it up. Ellen looked at it and sighed. "Of course they are," she said. Linda read it carefully. "They want to settle," she said. "Or at least contain." Ellen frowned. "Settle what?" she asked. Linda met her gaze. "The narrative," she said. The meeting was scheduled downtown, not at the hospital. Neutral ground, they called it. Ellen debated going. "I don't want to sit across from them again," she said. I understood, but Linda was firm. "You don't have to speak," she said. "Your presence is enough." In the end, Ellen came, dressed simply, holding my hand the entire drive. They brought 3 lawyers this time, different faces, same tone, apologies without admissions, concerns about miscommunication, offers of compensation, framed as goodwill. Ellen listened quietly, then surprised everyone by speaking. "You treated me like a resource," she said. "Not a person." One of the lawyers opened his mouth, then closed it again. "We regret that you felt that way," he said. Ellen shook her head. "I didn't feel it," she said. "I lived it." The offer was substantial, enough to make most people pause. I looked at Ellen, waiting. She squeezed my hand once. "No," she said. The lawyers exchanged looks. "Mrs. Harper," one of them said, "this could ensure your future care." Ellen met his eyes. "So could honesty," she replied. "You chose not to offer that." The meeting ended shortly after. The backlash came faster. This time, online comments, anonymous emails, questioning Ellen's motives. Someone even suggested she'd exaggerated for attention. She read one of those messages and laughed, a dry sound. "If they only knew," she said. I wanted to reply to every one of them. Linda stopped me. "That's what they want," she said, "to pull you into noise." She was right. We stayed quiet. Rachel called one evening, her voice tense. "They suspended me," she said. My stomach dropped. "From work?" I asked. "Pending investigation," she said. "They say I violated protocol." Ellen covered her mouth with her hand. "I'm so sorry," she said. Rachel exhaled. "Don't be," she replied. "I knew this was coming." There was a pause. "I just didn't think it would hurt this much." We helped Rachel find a lawyer through Linda's network. Others stepped forward too. Former staff, retired clinicians, people who had kept quiet for years. The story grew slowly but steadily. State regulators announced a formal review. Then another state followed. The sponsor went silent. Ellen watched the news coverage one night and shook her head. "They're acting shocked," she said. "Like this came out of nowhere." I sat beside her. "That's how systems protect themselves," I said. "They pretend they didn't see what they were built to ignore." Despite everything, there were good moments. Real ones. Ellen's strength improved. She laughed more. We took short walks in the evenings. Careful but determined. One night, as we sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the trees, she said, "I don't feel like a patient anymore." I smiled. "What do you feel like?" I asked. She thought for a moment. "Like myself," she said. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. Karen, the journalist. "We have confirmation," she said. "Internal emails." They knew. My chest tightened. "Knew what?" I asked. "That outcomes were worse than reported," she said. "And they restructured to keep enrollment up." Ellen closed her eyes when I told her. "So it was never about helping me," she said. "It was about finishing something." I nodded. "At any cost," I said. When the follow-up piece ran, it hit harder. Names, timelines, receipts. The hospital's board announced an independent review within hours. A week later, an executive resigned. Rachel called me, crying. "They reinstated me," she said. "With back pay." Ellen hugged me tightly when I told her. "One good thing," she said. "One real thing." But even with accountability starting to show, there was an emptiness that surprised me. The fight had given us purpose. Now there were quieter moments where the adrenaline faded and the cost settled in. One night, Ellen said softly, "What if we hadn't gotten that text?" The question hung between us. I didn't answer right away. "Then we wouldn't be here," I said finally. "But we are." We didn't know how far this would go, or where it would end. What we did know was that silence had been the most dangerous thing of all, and once broken, it didn't easily return. The world hadn't changed overnight, but something had shifted, for us. For others, and maybe, just maybe, for the people who thought they could keep doing this without anyone noticing. The weeks that followed felt strangely suspended, like we were living between chapters. The investigations moved forward on their own timelines, slow and methodical, while life at home tried to return to something resembling normal. Ellen focused on her treatment plan with the new doctors, who spoke plainly and never rushed her. No surprises. One of them told us during the first visit. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until he said it. Still, the phone kept ringing. Advocacy groups, attorneys, people who wanted Ellen to speak at panels or lend her name to lawsuits. Linda filtered most of it. "You don't owe anyone your story," she reminded us. Ellen appreciated that. I already gave more than I planned. She said one night as we sat at the kitchen table, sorting mail, among the bills and flyers was a handwritten note from a woman in Ohio. Her husband had been part of a similar trial years earlier. "Thank you for saying his name out loud," the note read. Ellen pressed it to her chest and cried. Rachel came over one afternoon, the first time we'd seen her in person. She looked tired but relieved, like someone who had finally set down a heavy load. "I kept thinking I was alone," she said, sitting across from Ellen, "that if I spoke up, I'd be erased." Ellen reached across the table and took her hand. "You weren't," she said. "You just couldn't see us yet." They sat like that for a long time, no words needed. The hospital's board released its findings a month later. Policy failures, oversight gaps, unintended consequences. I read the report twice. Ellen skimmed it once and set it aside. "They still won't say the word," she said. Harm. She was right. Accountability had edges, but it was still carefully framed. "At least it's public," I said. "That matters." She nodded. "It does," she agreed. "Even if it's not enough." One evening, Linda came by with a bottle of wine we'd been saving since before all of this started. "You should celebrate something," she said. "You changed the trajectory." Ellen smiled faintly. "I didn't mean to," she said. Linda shrugged. "Most people who do don't," she replied. We sat together, talking about small things. Weather, food, the relief of ordinary conversation. For the first time in a long while, the story wasn't the center of the room, but it wasn't done with us yet. A letter arrived from the state health department requesting Ellen's testimony as part of a formal hearing. Ellen stared at it for a long time. "I thought I was finished," she said. I waited, letting her find her own answer. "I don't want to relive everything," she said quietly. "But I don't want them to rewrite it either." She looked at me. "Will you be there?" I didn't hesitate. "Every step," I said. The hearing was held in a plain government building, fluorescent lights and hard chairs. Ellen spoke calmly, answering questions without embellishment. When one official asked why she hadn't spoken up sooner, she paused. "Because I was told my care depended on my silence," she said. The room went quiet. That sentence did more than any document could. When it was over, Ellen looked drained but lighter. I said what I needed to say. She said, "Afterward a man approached us in the hallway. Older, nervous. My wife was in that program. He said, she didn't make it." Ellen listened as he spoke, tears in his eyes. When he finished, she hugged him. "I'm sorry," she said. "I wish I could change it." He shook his head. "You already did something," he said. "You made sure they couldn't pretend it never happened." As he walked away, Ellen whispered, "That's why I did it." I squeezed her hand. The ripple effects continued. New guidelines, mandatory disclosures, training programs. None of it erased the past, but it changed the future a little. Ellen watched one of the announcements on the news and turned to me. "Do you think they'll really follow through?" she asked. I thought for a moment. "Some will," I said. "Some won't. But now they know someone's watching." She nodded. "That counts." One night, long after everything had quieted down, Ellen said something that caught me off guard. "I don't regret being sick," she said. I looked at her, confused. "I regret the pain," she clarified, "and the fear, but not the clarity." She took my hand. "I know who I am now," she said, "and I know who you are." My throat tightened. You always did, I said. She smiled. I knew you loved me, she said. I didn't know how fiercely. As summer turned toward fall, life settled into a new rhythm, slower, more intentional. We said no more often. We rested when we needed to. The fight had changed us, but it hadn't hardened us. If anything, it had sharpened our sense of what mattered. One afternoon, as we walked through the park near our house, Ellen stopped and looked around. I almost didn't get to see this again, she said. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. But you did, I said. The past still surfaced sometimes, uninvited, a phrase, a smell, a late-night text that made my heart jump before I realized it was just a friend checking in. But those moments passed more easily now. We had context. We had truth. And we had each other. That was something no institution could take away. We knew there was one final step left. Not legal, not public, personal. Ellen mentioned it one evening as we sat on the porch. I want to go back there, she said. To the hospital. I looked at her, surprised. Why? I asked. She took a breath. To close the loop, she said. On my terms. I didn't argue. I just nodded. When you're ready, I said. She smiled, calm and certain. I am, she said. We went back to the hospital, on a quiet Tuesday morning, not as patients this time, but as visitors. Ellen chose the day and the hour. I don't want an audience, she said. We parked in the same garage where I'd sat in my car months earlier, staring at my phone after that midnight text. Walking through the automatic doors felt strange, like stepping into a place that used to own a piece of us, and didn't anymore. No one stopped us. No one recognized us. That, oddly, was a relief. Ellen moved slowly but steadily, her hand on my arm. I just want to see it, she said. We stood in the lobby for a moment. The hum of normal activity all around us. People checking in, volunteers smiling. Life going on. This is where it almost happened, she said softly, and where it stopped. I nodded. Because you stopped it, I said. We didn't go to her old floor. Instead, Ellen asked to speak with patient services. A young woman greeted us, professional and polite. How can I help you? She asked. Ellen took a breath. I want to leave feedback, she said. The woman gestured to a small office. Inside, Ellen spoke calmly. No anger, no accusations, just facts. How fear had been used, how silence had been encouraged, how trust had been misplaced. The woman listened, typing carefully. When Ellen finished, there was a pause. Thank you for telling us, she said. Ellen nodded. I'm not telling you, she replied gently. I'm reminding you. As we stood to leave, a familiar face appeared in the doorway. Dr. Myers. He looked surprised, then relieved. I heard you were back, he said quietly. Ellen smiled at him. I wanted to say goodbye, she said. He looked down. I wish I'd done more, he said. Ellen shook her head. You did what you could, she said. And now I'm doing what I can. He nodded, emotion flickering across his face. I'm glad you're well, he said. Me too, she replied. On the way out, Ellen stopped by the front desk and asked for a moment. She leaned on the counter, looking at the flow of people coming and going. I don't hate this place, she said as we walked back to the car. I hate what it forgot. I understood. Systems don't wake up cruel. They drift there, one compromise at a time. And then someone has to pull them back. At home that afternoon, Ellen rested on the couch, sunlight coming through the window. She looked peaceful in a way that had nothing to do with medicine. I feel finished, she said. I sat beside her. Finished? I asked. She nodded. With carrying it, she said. The anger, the fear. She reached for my hand. I don't need to fight anymore. I squeezed back. Then we won't, I said. The calls slowed after that. The letters stopped. The story moved on. as stories do. Occasionally we'd hear about another policy change, another guideline, another training program. Small things, real things, enough. Rachel found a new role in patient safety. She called one evening, her voice lighter than I'd ever heard it. "I finally sleep," she said. Ellen smiled when I told her. "That matters," she said. Life didn't become perfect. Ellen still had bad days, appointments, fatigue, moments where the weight of everything pressed down again. But now when it did, it didn't feel isolating. We had language for it, context, a shared understanding that what happened wasn't our fault. That mattered more than I could have imagined. One night, months later, Ellen asked me a question as we lay in bed. "Do you ever think about that text?" she asked. I nodded. "Every day," I said. She was quiet for a moment. "It saved me," she said. I shook my head. "It warned us," I said. "You saved yourself." She smiled in the dark. "We saved each other," she said. That felt right. If there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that truth doesn't usually arrive with flashing lights. It comes quietly. A message, a hesitation, a feeling that something doesn't add up. And when it does, it asks something of you. Courage, attention, willingness to be uncomfortable. Not everyone answers that call. We almost didn't. But we did. And because of that, Ellen is here, sitting across from me now, laughing at something on television, alive in the most ordinary and extraordinary ways. The hospital lost control of the story, the moment someone decided to tell the truth. And we found something we didn't even know we were missing. Our voice,